Welcome to the Imposter Syndrome Club. I'm Alice and I'm joined as always by my gorgeous friend Jessamy. Hello, my love.
Hello, beautiful Alice.
Happy 2023.
Happy 2023.
We did it. We did it. We said our goal was to survive the festive season. We did it.
Yeah, I think so.
I would say enjoyed it almost even.
I feel like I really enjoyed. It's one of those horrible things, and I don't know how to change this mindset. I haven't been successful at it yet. You have that sort of thing of like, I just need to get through Christmas. I just need to get through like all of those lovely, beautiful things like going to Christmas parties, hanging out with family. There's this mindset of like, oh, I've just got to get through that bit, which is fucked, but also feels true.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's the additional layer of feeling like such a fucking asshole for feeling that because you're like, these are all great things. Why am I being such a dick about it? And it's just like we spoke about last week. I think it's just the big feeling thing. And I think it's possible. You can hold both. Yeah. Like I had a fucking amazing time, but also I'm kind of relieved that we're going to get back to what like life as usual.
I wonder if that's part of I know that it's not set up with this as an intention, but it's kind of a nice byproduct of it. It's like pulling the tension, like pulling the rubber band back. So you're so ready to start routine and normalcy again by the start of the year that it's positive. You're looking forward to early nights and early mornings and getting some routine back. It's kind of nice.
Yeah, I think exactly that. Like you need both. By the end of the year, you're feeling so structured and so contained that it's just such a gift to have this kind of exhale. And I felt like water just being poured out of a jug in this kind of big messy puddle, and it was so good. But I'm also quite excited now to like sweep that into something and kind of start shaping it a bit more.
Yeah. Tell me all about it. So last time we spoke, this episode came out just after New Year's, but we recorded it just before, and you were going away on a trip with your partner and his mates. And the one thing I remember the most was about the dance.
Yes.
You give a bit of context and then tell me all about it.
I mean, if I say it was better than Hamilton, that would probably be a conservative description of how amazing that dance was. It was so good. So for people that missed our last episode, like a brief description is that myself and a group of our girlfriends did this dance summary of the year that was of 2022, and we just got a few snippets of a few songs. It was about 8 to 9 minutes, and we did a dance that we had loosely choreographed and forgotten everything. And we did it at our New Year party. And the highlight was someone's partner had been called in to do a cameo. And we, for reasons that are too complex to go into, we needed him to dress in a chicken outfit and get shot. I do
have questions, but I'm just going to let it go. I'll let it go.
That's what needed to happen. We had someone in the props department. So basically there was we'd gotten the sound effect of someone cocking a rifle. His partner was going to do this she'd gotten a fake gun. He was going to be in a chicken outfit. The rest of us are dancing someone else.
Was this a thing that really happened, or is this a fever dream we're talking about?
No, I'm hearing myself try to explain this. This all needed to happen. There was someone else who was had kind of like this like feathers to be like the confetti. So when the chicken gets shot, the feathers like burst into the air. This whole thing was
very high production values, I've got to say.
Also, you have to imagine this is a group of people who've been camping for 3 days. So like the resources are slim on the ground. It was amazing. So this is the whole plan. And as we're in the dance has started. All our friends are standing around laughing like it's happening. The partner of the chicken man realizes that she has not given him his chicken suit. He's currently standing in the audience. He's about 30 seconds away from his cue. And there is no chicken suit. So she, midway through the dance, turns around, just runs to the tent to get the So she just bolts. She's gone. The rest of us are like, what the fuck is happening? Keep going, keep going. She emerges, runs, there's a chicken suit, throws it at him. It is now his cue, right? So he gets pulled onto stage. When I say stage, it was just a field. And he is now doing a chicken dance, like while climbing into a chicken suit. He's like wearing shoes. So he's basically, it was just like a grown man doing a chicken dance, like falling all over himself. And he was just so game. Like he didn't question it. He was there. He was like doing the dance, pulling on the suit, tripping over himself. It was the funniest, most beautiful, joyful thing I've ever seen. It was perfect.
I feel like that's the best way it possibly could have gone.
I could, when you're looking at something and you can't breathe, you're laughing so hard. I was just like, yes, the only thing better than a grown man in a chicken suit doing a chicken dance is all of that happening while he's trying so hard to put it on. Like tripping. Everyone thought it was part of the performance. They were like, that was fine. AJ was amazing. So yeah, man of the match, AJ, shout out.
Good
delivered
you,
the goods. It was perfect in every way.
And what a beautiful metaphor to start a new year with, Sometimes you think the thing that's the biggest fuck up is actually the way that it should have been all along and the biggest joy. And also, no one knows.
No one knows. And yeah, I love that is the perfect way to frame it. It's like we could not have scripted anything better than what happened. Like, and this is something I definitely learned at art school is, yes, it's important to start with an idea, but you need to trust that the world has more wisdom than your idea. So you start with it, but also allow reality to get in there because the changes will be better than anything you could have imagined.
I love it. Well, what a awesome start to the year. I mean, look, I can't.
It was so much fun.
I really can't compete with that.
Don't. Nothing. I can't even compete with that. And I was there. How was your New Year?
It was great. It was really, really chill. So we, Dan and I took the dogs down to San Remo, it's just near Phillip Island, for 3 nights. So just the night before New Year's Eve and the night after. And it was just like it was perfectly exactly what I needed after we were saying that sort of like hectic time of Christmas and parties and stuff, which is all great, but very it just takes a lot of energy, right?
Yeah.
And, I'm not someone who's known to be able to just like have 2 drinks and call it a night. So part of that is on me. But it was just really relaxed. The weather was beautiful. The place that we stayed in, which was just a little like Airbnb place, was just like a little studio apartment, but it had a small yard that was all totally enclosed so the doggies could run around. We took Pickle to the beach for the first time and she loved it. Well, I don't know. She can't tell me, but I feel like the vibes were good. She was enjoying it.
I think you would have known if she hated it.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, Chi-Chi's a bit too fancy. She's a bit of a fancy lady. But
fair enough.
But Pickle's a bit more rambunctious.
I love that you made the effort to change space and go somewhere new for New Year because I feel like it's so easy within a relationship to have that practicality conversation where you're like, well, it's you, Dan, and the dogs, which is happening here. So you're like, well, we could do that here or we could do that by the sea, but in one version we save $600 or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is just something really important about the way you honor that relationship and put money and time and effort into it the way you would with other friendships. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And it's become a bit of a tradition for us in the last, I want to say like 9 years maybe. We haven't done anything for New Year's other than just be with us. When I say we haven't done anything, we've gone somewhere. So we've gone quite a few times. We've gone and done like a sunrise hike. So we've gone out to like Mount Feathertop or something and done a big long hike in the morning. Sometimes we've just gone up to the Dandenongs and just like had a nice night there. So it's sort of become this thing where it's just us. This is the first time we've taken the dogs, which is nice. Usually we get a dog sitter.
They crack the invite.
Yeah. And do something that's sort of like active and positive on New Year's morning. Because as well, like I think New Year's Eve is not something that's ever really appealed to me that much as a big night. Like something like what you did with going away with a group of mates would be really nice. In the absence of that, like going out, I don't know, there's something about the vibe of it that never really gelled with me as much. Like I love a party as much as the next
Oh,
person,
but
but there's like I don't know, I think when you're young, there's like the high expectations thing. And then as you get older, it's sort of like trying to find the right vibe. Like I don't, and I guess it's a little bit different now that Uber exists, but just constantly being terrified of not being able to get home. So yeah, it was just not something that I ever really got super excited about. And this is just it's lovely to start January 1st in the vibe that you want to carry through the year. And again, as we said last week a million times, it's an arbitrary date, I know, but there's something about the symbolism of that for me that has become meaningful, and I really enjoy that. It's really nice.
Yeah, I totally get it. I mean, I think neither of us are scared of a party.
Yeah.
I would say that as a shared trait. But yeah, there is something about, I think, that desperation that often is associated with New Year's Eve that it makes my skin crawl. Like until the last 2 years of doing this camping party with friends, I think I have chosen your route for a few years because it does feel to me like the thought of, I don't know, that insane, everyone, guys, is it the thing? What's the time? You guys, what's the time? What's the time? I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Are we new people yet?
Yeah, exactly. Are we better yet? Like, are we? It's so weird. I hate it. But yeah, I think it's like being quite intentional around that time. It's like either just have a beautiful, thoughtful, clean, kind of good, positive start, or do a party where you are removed from the city, you're removed from taxis, Ubers, all of that kind of like icky dirtiness that can happen around New Year. And, we were just, it was amazing. Like we just had a sort of a full, what do you say, 360 degree? What do you call it when it's like you see the whole, because we were on a field. So there were just stars. Like the whole sky was just stars. We could hear the ocean and just a fire. And there was one point just like dancing, and it feels so ancient. Like it just feels like your bones understand what it means to be surrounded by this community of people you love, and dancing and light, the fire and lights. We had sort of fairy lights everywhere, and it was, I feel very restored and very, very lucky.
Yeah. I feel like that, like both approaches, they're just sort of different approaches to the same kind of value, in that, being around people that you love, not compromising on, we should go here because that's what people are doing, or because I didn't have anything better to do. So it's the same, like it's different vibes, but coming from the same place of,
Oh, I just like it's bringing back threads of, I think maybe your early 20s just ruin New Year for you because you're kind of too young to draw those boundaries around what is or isn't fun.
Yes.
And then you like have to recover from that and just find a way where you're like, no, it's sometimes, the sunrise, the thought of waking up at sunrise just sounds beautiful as well.
Do you have any memories of like the worst New Year's you had?
We were in Cape Town. I was like 21. We were on Signal Hill, which is the kind of mountain that overlooks the city. Just trying to work out how to phrase this. Took a bunch of acid. I don't know.
There's really only one way to say that, Alice, and you nailed it.
Watched the sunset. It was so beautiful, but then realized we had no way down from the mountain other than our legs. And that was at exactly the moment that this group of like ragtag art school punk rock little like misfits had to then basically climb down a mountain so high into the city and basically stumbled into a parade. And it was it was too much. It was such a bad time.
Oh no.
It was such a bad time. It was really amazing until it suddenly wasn't. And it just was, let's not do that anymore, ladies and gentlemen.
Alice has tested it for us, and that's a no. Oh, a parade. Oh my God, that's my worst nightmare.
I know. And that's the thing, is parades are everywhere.
I mean, you can never be too careful, Just never know when you might run into a parade on acid.
Blindsided by a parade. It's a bad time. Anyway, guys, that was a long time ago, and obviously,
You know where the parades are now and
I've
how to
talked-
avoid them.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do you have any particular New Year like nightmares?
You know what's interesting? Like I'm trying to think of like standout New Year's as either good or bad, and they're just like I struggle to remember what I did for a lot of them. There was one that was quite bad when I must have still been a teenager, maybe like 16 or 17. And we went to Lawn for the night. But we didn't have any, because we didn't have any money. We didn't have anywhere to stay. I didn't have any rich friends with beach houses or anything up there. So a bunch of us went in my friend Mark's car, the only one of us who had his license in a car. And we're like, it'll be fine. We'll just sleep in the car. Like, it's not like we'll be sleeping much anyway. It's fine. And it was not fine. And I don't know if you've ever been to like one of the like beach towns in Victoria on New Year's Eve. But I don't know what it's like now, but certainly like in the 90s, it was pretty fucking wild and just messy. I mean, it's kind of what you want as a teenager, right? Like you are kind of wild and messy, and it's probably much more appealing then than it would be now. But just, there's just people everywhere. Like, you lose each other, you find each other. You don't like, you're also an idiot because you're a kid. So you're not like, I'll bring a jacket. It'll probably get cold. You're just there like, I just remember freezing, and all of us like, because you're sort of thinking like have this romantic notion like the party's going to go all night and it's going to be great. But, it's just at some point the party is over and then you're just wandering around Lawn freezing and like, I guess we'll go back to the car then.
And like someone's lost their phone.
Yeah.
It's always a whole thing.
Yeah. And then just trying to like, and there was too many of us for the size of the car. So all sitting like sardines in the back seat, like bolt upright. This little like Nissan Bluebird trying to sleep.
That's such a rite of passage is learning how quickly you go when you're in the city and you're packing for a trip and it's beforehand. It's really easy to discount that stuff. You're like, yeah. Okay, it'll be a bit uncomfortable. Okay, we're just gonna sleep in the car. Like it's fine. It's fine. We'll make it work. And then it happens and it's like 3 a.m. and you can't sleep and you're so exhausted and you go crazy. You get into that like insanely desperate, frantic tiredness of like all you want to do is be asleep and you can't. You're cold and uncomfortable and whatever. And yeah, I guess you've got to do it. Like no one can teach that to you. You have to learn why you put in the effort of
Yeah. Why are teenagers so averse to like anything practical? Like I remember sort of like a little meme thing that's like a meme thing. Like a teenage girl's greatest fear is that one of her friends will find out she owns a coat. And I was like, oh my God, it's so funny because it's so true. Like I remember so many times going out and like wearing like thongs in winter or refusing to take a coat because it didn't go with my outfit, or it just seemed like so deeply uncool to have a coat. But then of course you go out and you're freezing or it rains or whatever, but it takes at least for me, it takes way too long than it should to learn those lessons. Like what is it about? I mean, obviously there's some element of it that's just wanting to rebel against whatever your parents are telling you to do. But it seems to be specifically around things that are super practical and actually very helpful that you're like, no.
No, I'm fine. Yeah, I don't.
Like, what is it?
Yeah. It's also, there was something, sorry, I've literally just had a thought around that teenage thing and it's gone out of my head. But I don't know if it's also maybe it's like a Southern Hemisphere. Like we both grew up, obviously Australia and South Africa are famously warmer, which is not actually true in the depths of winter, but kind of that's the image you have in your mind of these places. Perhaps it's different if you're a German teenager where coldness and dealing with coldness are just part of your culture. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, definitely the stakes are much higher. Yes. Like in Melbourne, you're just going to be like a bit cold and uncomfortable. You wouldn't like actually die.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. I remembered what I wanted to say. Sorry, this was linked to to things that you don't want to admit when you're young. But I was thinking a lot about, because we went camping now recently, packing stuff, and how over time I'm so much more comfortable with bringing more things, bringing options, bringing things that I need. Almost, I think I'm overcompensating a bit. Like I do think I had way too many wardrobe options for 3 days, but that's fine. I think it really is the flip side of when I was younger, and I don't know if you had the same experience, but I felt like I was a teenager in exactly the time of the chill girl. And it was so much like, God forbid you admitted that you needed anything other than, the myth was like, you were supposed to be this like whimsical chill girl, and like you were going to fall in love with someone who, and you'd listen to like you put a indie mixtape into someone's car and then you'd drive across the country together, and you wouldn't pack anything. You were just going to go because you were so chill, and somehow you'd look magical and beautiful the whole time, and you'd feel great and it would be okay.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, one thing that I know about myself now when it comes to packing is I will fill to the brim whatever vessel I have. So if I take a big suitcase, which is the case on the weekend, away for 3 nights, I am packing that suitcase with as much stuff as will fit it, because why the fuck not? I'm taking a suitcase anyway. And I know that I will wear the same pair of shorts and maybe 2 tops the whole time. But I want to know that I have options, and that's fine. But I think you're so right. And a lot of that, I mean, so much like, I don't know, like internalized misogyny, probably like weird. Like I feel so kind of awful when I look back on a lot of my youth at how I felt about being a woman, or judged other women at that time about like being too extra. Because you're right, like there's this whole like thing of like being chill, like not being like, the worst thing you could be was like a girly girl.
Yeah.
And heaven forbid you wanted to like look fucking nice or wear fun clothes, or you know what I mean? Like and grunge was still like a big part of what was cool. And it was so deeply uncool to care about how you looked. But of course that's all anyone cares about when they're a teenager. So many conflicting ideas. And I feel like I missed out on like a big chunk of who I was at that age, because I was like, no, like it's so uncool to want to like wear makeup unless it's like my very cool goth makeup, which
I would have thought you
made
were
me
cool.
look like I was bleeding from my eyes, as my mum once told me. But yeah, I think those like really shutting down those traditionally feminine parts of you, or things that are seen as feminine qualities of being, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, I don't know, but it's just so layered, because I think that this is they were very much the girls in my class who were the girly girls, and kind of in that network that was okay. But I think the irony of being the quote unquote chill girl, or supposed being a bit more grungy or punky or not caring, was that was all overlaid or underlaid or underwritten, I don't know, by exactly the same values.
Of course.
It was like, it was a whole performance of not caring.
Yeah.
But within not caring, God forbid you didn't still look hot.
Yeah.
Right? Like it was like, it hadn't got its hooks out of you, but just the wrapping paper was different.
Yes.
But it was that you had to maintain a certain aesthetic, but it had a bit more grungier clothes and looked a bit more like whatever. But
it was more insidious in a way, because you had to, look hot at all times, but pretend you don't care.
Yeah. Which is such a trap, because it just keeps you, I always think of this, it's like if you applied those standards to another animal, you'd get to see the insanity of it. And I'm like, if someone took their dog, if I took my dog to my laser hair removal, and I'm like, please could you electric shock this dog, its entire body except for like one little patch of hair on its head.
And then it will be beautiful.
Finally, someone will want to fuck it. But like that would be insane, right? Like I would get put in jail because that's a crazy thing to do. But it's like, we're also animals. It is equally crazy. And I say that this is it. I'm not being all like anti-hair removal here. My point is that you cannot get out. This is what is so toxic about a system like this, is you can't get out of it. Like you can participate in it and be as cleanly shaved as a bald little sex dolphin, or you can be as furry as a monkey. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't fucking matter because you're still going to doubt your choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So we're fucked then. No, but there is, I mean, my feelings about it have changed so much over time, and particularly in the last, like, fairly recent. Like today, for example, when I answered the door and you came over and I'm dressed head to toe in like pastel purple because Dan got me these sick new shoes for Christmas that are like full pastel purple, beautiful sneakers, which I love. And I wanted to wear them because I hadn't worn them yet. And then I was like, oh, I've got all this other matching stuff. And it's just like, I have no plans today other than doing this. I'm not going anywhere. It's just Thursday at home. But I was like, fuck it. I'm going to put on this cute ass outfit because I want to and it's fun. And there's a part of me still that's like, someone's going to judge you. Alice is going to come over here and be like, what
are you trying to prove, Jessamy?
Yeah.
What are you trying
Who
to
are you dressing up for?
I don't think that at all.
I know that you don't. I know that you don't.
I know.
But there is that part.
Illustrating.
There are still those seeds of doubt in there. And the good thing now is that I can recognize them for what they are and be like, fuck it. I want to because it's going to make me happy and it's going to make me feel good. And the other thing that I sort of return to if I'm feeling that little like seed of, I guess it's shame essentially. Like I feel like, oh, how embarrassing that someone might think that I'm deserving of feeling good or expressing myself in this way, which is fucked. But that's where it comes from, I'm pretty sure. So my other way out of that I've found is to picture it in the reverse. Like if I was to show up at someone's house and they were dressed in this like cute ass outfit, that would give me nothing but delight.
Yeah.
I'd be like, amazing.
It was the best. I opened the door and it was just like a lavender genie. Yeah. On the side. And it works in the reverse too. And firstly, it brought me so much joy just because it looks like you're having fun. I was just like, Jess is fucking just alive and happy to be alive. And that's beautiful to be around. And then the converse of that was I was in my pajamas and texted you. I was like, cool, I'm on my way. I put on a bra, I brushed my teeth and I'm still in my pajamas. And there's space for both of these things.
Equally amazing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm so happy with this life choice too.
But that's it. And sometimes I will be exactly the same. It's just what you like being free to not have to be the girly girl or the chill girl. Yeah. You can be both and neither and anywhere in between at any given time. And you get to decide and fuck everyone else.
I definitely, yes, fully. I definitely relate to that thing as well of I know there have been times in my life where the thought of trying was scary because I think my self-esteem was so low that the thought of trying to look good, what I imagined would happen was that it would be like putting makeup on like a duck and then letting it out into the club. And then everyone's like, what is that fucking duck with eyeshadow doing? Yeah. Like
why is it wearing heels?
It doesn't belong. It's not sexy. It looks like a joke. It looks like a clown. And I was like, there would be nothing more humiliating. And the idea of like the vulnerability of trying and still failing to meet some kind of mark the thought of that was so terrifying, and the humiliation associated with that was so big that I was like, well, go the other direction where fuck you guys, I don't care, I'm gonna fuck myself up and actively not care was a sort of a protection mechanism. But the thing is, that feels real bad. It feels real bad.
Yeah. I relate to that 100%. Like, and I think it's not like there was a thing that I wanted to do, that I desperately wanted to be that figure of I keep coming back to the girly girl thing because I can't think of a better word for it. But like I did have passion for looking differently and expressing myself through clothes. But there was 100% an element of it that was exactly that. Like we've spoken about on this podcast with work, with a bunch of different things, that if you don't try, you never get to know the result. So you can pretend that it's dumb, that it's vacuous, that, you know, they're stupid for doing it because then, you know, then that gets to be your story, not just like I tried this thing that I was
Yeah.
interested in trying, because I tried on a million different like subculture things, but not really that one, because that seemed more, I don't know, the stakes were higher or something. Like it was going to reveal something about like
Yeah.
if you try to look pretty and you don't look pretty, then you're just a duck in heels at the club.
Duck Club, Jessamy.
Excuse me. Well, this is why I'm deeply uncool, obviously.
I like to say it like my mum would say it. Duck Club.
My mum used to say that we were at the disco.
Discotheque?
If someone would call the house when I was out, and I'm just like, Mom! I'm sorry, Jessamy's not here at the moment. She's gone to the disco.
Like, rave, Mum. It's a fucking rave.
Meanwhile, it was underage chasers, so, you know, she wasn't entirely wrong. The disco.
It's something that I deeply appreciate about the group of friends that I was away with over New Year's, and also while saying that, it's not as if I've ever had a deeply conservative group of friends who haven't been like this. I think this is the part
Same.
that breaks my heart is I've always had amazing friends who are incredibly supportive. So it is nothing to do with needing to find a new group of people. I think I've just realized how there is something, we create this kind of like habitual cage around ourselves with people. And there's something about when you make a new group of friends, you're no longer held accountable to that. But you are doing your old friends such a disservice if you don't fucking own that, because like that is not on them for even 1 second. Like,
yeah.
But I did find there was a point at which I was, we're like dancing around the fire, and I realized I'm literally wearing at that stage like a fully gold glitter, just one piece, like bathers, swimming costume, whatever Australians call them bathers.
Yeah.
South Africans call them cozies. I don't know, a one piece.
Yeah.
Not a lot of clothes is what I'm saying. And it's like I am not someone who's ever self-identified as having a particularly positive body image. I'm not confident. Like that is work of years and years and years and years. But just getting to a point where it's just like, fuck it. Like, fuck that. This is what I want to be doing right now. And it's fucking happening. And the second you give yourself permission to do that, just like the support and space that is created around that. And it's just been, it's so fun. Like playing is so fun. And I think about all the years that I didn't allow myself to play for no other reason than I'd created this imaginary audience of really mean people that I thought gave a fuck.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Like this is the key to so many things, it seems, is that we make these assumptions about the reaction that someone else is going to have or what they're going to think or not think about us. And the reality most of the time is people either A, don't care, like it's just not on their radar, or B, it's just completely untrue. Like it's just, like how many times have you had, I don't know, like you've had to have a difficult conversation with someone or tell them that you were going to do or not do a thing, or you were, I don't know, moving out of a house or whatever, like, and you have this whole conversation in your head about how it's going to go and they're going to react badly and they'll be upset, but then why should they be upset? And like I do this, I play out fucking insane scenarios in my head and then already have the not argument, but like, well, sometimes it could be an argument, but work myself up about doing this thing or having this conversation or wearing this thing or whatever it is. And it almost never plays out that way, but we just make these assumptions for whatever reason that things will go badly or that people will, are mean and they're waiting to judge you. It's just not true.
And it's so unfair to them.
Yeah.
It's you being a bad friend if you don't realize that the people you're surrounded with are beautiful, supportive, amazing people. Like if you let your insecurities project and overlay your perception of what they would do, like that is fully your shit. Like you're missing the gift of the people that are around you. And I think for the most part that would be true probably for most of our listeners. Like I'm sure in different cultural context where there's maybe more conformity or maybe more
Sure.
rules around that would be
Yeah.
different. But I mean, for us and the kind of open-minded kind of liberal inner Melbourne bubble and the people that I think would be listening to this, like really no one we know gives a fuck. No one is going to be judging us. If anything, I think it would be met with so much love and support for whatever the fuck your thing is, like whatever your kink is, just go there.
But and also, if not, I mean, and again, like acknowledging that there are things around family and community that are slightly more complex than this.
Yeah, for sure.
But it could be a good way of like, if people are not making you feel like that, then maybe these are not the right people for you, you know?
Yeah. This is a bit of a tangent, but it is related. Not that that's ever been criteria for a segue.
What are you talking? Getting fancy on us now, are you?
Here's another thing I thought. But I've just been noticing in terms of so projecting these things or the stories we tell ourselves to make sense of how we fit into our broader context. I've been catching myself in the stories that I write about things, how things are going to be received, what things mean, what other people's actions mean, what my actions mean. And I'm trying to notice how often, like, what is the ratio that these are weighted positive or negative? And for me, it's overwhelmingly negative. Like if I'm going to imagine a scenario, it's always going to be like the worst way this thing could play out or how this thing could go wrong, which makes sense. I think in evolutionary terms, to have a negativity bias, you do want to protect yourself from the unknown. Because in all of these cases, you're taking an unknown quantity and kind of trying to steel yourself against the ways in which the world could hurt you.
Yeah.
But that said, I'm kind of astounded at the waste of creativity and the waste of brain power that is going into these things. Like if I think about the amazingly creative narratives my brain writes to hurt my own feelings.
Oh man.
It is breathtaking. Yeah. I'm like, what? If we channeled that into literally any other thing, how productive that could be?
Oh, that's depressing. Yeah.
So fix it.
Yeah. That's so true though. Like, yeah, if we could only channel our powers for good, imagine what we could do. So I was thinking about that today, well, over the past sort of week, doing a bit of reflecting on sort of like themes for the year and traits that I want to embody and behaviors that would support those traits. And listening to a podcast this morning with a guest that we're going to have on very shortly about self and about sense of self. And wondering, and I will ask her this question next week, but it's a sort of chicken and egg thing, right? Like you have this idea of self, of who you are as a person. So I could say I'm Jessamy and I think I'm a kind person. But until I test that, until I have some interaction with the world, I don't really know if that's true or not. So I have to go and do something kind and then go, oh, yes, I am a kind person, or get some feedback from the world. But then what comes first, the behavior or the trait? Like what made me think initially, I am Jessamy, I'm a kind person? Was it just because I want to be that way, or was it based on like, I've had these experiences or these people have told me that I'm kind, or society has told me that these particular actions are actions of kindness and they're things I have done, therefore I am kind. Do you know what I mean? It's a circular sort of thing.
Totally. And it's so interesting because also if those have to start somewhere and you have a society that is incentivized to tell you things that make you weaker, because then they can sell you something to fix yourself. If you're not aware that those are going in, it's like that's arriving in your head. You've been told that before you've even had any kind of self-awareness or self-filter. That becomes who you are, then that becomes your actions, and then that does become who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. And the testing ground that you use, you would get different feedback from different testing grounds, as in, like with different environments, communities, whatever, that would give you different feedback on that action and make your sense of self different.
Oh my God. I can't wait for that. What a little teaser.
Yeah. I'll keep the good stuff in my pocket for next week, but also probably better to talk about it with someone who
with
has
an actual
any fucking idea what they're talking about.
Excuse me.
But it is so interesting, like going through that. You know that thing, like if you smile, even if you're feeling awful, it does actually lift your mood, even if you're feeling terrible. And thinking about that in terms of like, what are the things that I can do behavior-wise? And one of them was wear super fun clothes that make me happy. One of them was getting my nails done.
Yeah.
Then there were some that were much sort of deeper than that, or not even deeper, but like, you know, waking up early, training every day, having a routine, spending time with friends, having deep conversations. Like some of them are bigger and some of them are really small. All of them seem to be valuable and some of them are sort of low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
And I think for me at least, it's equally valuable to identify the small things and the big things. And on those days where you're like, I just feel like shit, I don't have it in me to have deep, meaningful conversations. Maybe I don't even have it in me to train. But you know what I can do is put on a super cute top.
Yeah.
Even if I'm just put some lipstick on, make my bed. Exactly.
Yeah.
Those like little things that you know you can have in your pocket for when you don't have the energy for the bigger things. I think it's useful.
There's also a sense of there's in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, they have this loop cycle that's kind of your thoughts linked to your feelings, linked to your behaviors, and linked to the outcomes. And I think and now I'm talking very much as an amateur, so please anyone correct me. I'm sure I'm going to get things wrong. But the general gist of this is learning to identify those thoughts, to notice them so you can change the thought, get a different feeling and get a different behavior and get a different outcome. But it's kind of the awareness or visibility of that cycle and how these things relate to each other, and then being able to intervene or intercept them at different points. And I think a lot of their focus tends to be with the thoughts and feelings, like noticing, okay, cool, when you think this, it makes you feel this way, like kind of really recognizing the relationship between that thought pattern and the feeling, and then how that becomes a concrete thing, which is of course really important, and it's a really, really valuable skill. And I found CBT to be super helpful. But there is also a sense that it does move in the other direction as well. Like sometimes your thoughts and your brain, for me anyway, it's fucking carnival in there. I'm like, I don't even know. I don't know. And trying to reason with it, it's sometimes, if I'm super heightened, trying to reason at the level of language, be like, but really, is that thought true? Is it always true? You know, these questions that you're supposed to ask. Sometimes it's that the horse is out of the barn, and really it's almost trying to play there. It's too late, and coming back to just the behaviors can be really helpful, and be like, I don't feel like this, but at least if I can do some physical things, it filters backwards. And I think if you've got a bit of a practice both ways, you can catch yourself.
I think so. I mean, that's my experience at least, because sometimes as well, you have the feeling and it would be like it's from a thought or an event or something, but you're not necessarily aware of that. Like you might just, so for example, not every year, but often around September, I'm very, very sad. And it surprises me every year, but that's around the time of the anniversary of my mum's death. I'm not thinking about my mum specifically. It always catches me by surprise because I'm a fucking idiot. It's just because it's not in the front of your mind. Totally. But my body fucking knows for some reason around that time, and I get really, really sad. Now I'm not thinking, as I said, I'm not thinking about mum specifically. It's not, the thought isn't there, the feeling is there. So doing that sort of like start with the thought work in that scenario wouldn't really work for me. It is always when I go, oh, it's that
Yeah.
time of year, that makes sense. And again, it's not every year, but it's quite often that this will happen. That's sort of helpful to be able to identify it's probably related to this. But I think also in that case, starting with behavior and working backwards probably for me in that situation is more valuable.
It makes so much sense. And also because the input that's informing that feeling isn't linguistic either. Like it's not it is September. It's not chunks of information like that. It's like feelings. It's probably smells, certain flowers blossoming, the change of temperature in the air, the way the wind is different. All of these sub-linguistic cues are going in, and it's happening at the sensory level, and it's producing like a sensory result. So kind of language is so late to the party.
Yeah. It is 100% that. Yeah. It is 100% that. Yeah. Yeah. I guess like models are always useful to have as a starting point, but everyone's brains work so differently. And I imagine within that thoughts, feelings, behaviors.
Feelings, behaviors, outcomes. Yeah.
Outcomes.
I think.
That you could think of it like at different times it will work in all sorts of different directions, and it would be more or less useful to look at it in different directions depending on who you are, what's going on, all of those sorts of things. But even just not like having the idea of those things as separate, parts of doesn't even have to be a cycle, but an ecosystem maybe is useful.
It's like having a map and at least knowing where you are in that, because sometimes the thing that's upsetting you is your behaviors, and you're like, why am I acting this way? What am I doing? And you're almost trying to correct it at the level of behavior. And it's really helpful to have the map and be like, actually, this is not the thing, right? Like you were saying last week, like the thing is not about the thing. And you can kind of be like, okay, actually what's happening? It's way further upstream.
Yes.
And looking at it there. But this is also a sidebar, but I'm sure you'll find a very eloquent Jessamy way to work this in. But I remember getting lost with friends of mine when we went for a hike about 3 years ago now. I think we were in the Dandenongs. And we had our phones and we had our GPSs. And this is what was so amazing is at all times we knew exactly where we were. But because we hadn't put a pin where the car was, we had no way of getting back. We had no way of getting home. And it just blew my mind because we think about maps. I tend to think of them as like maps show you where you are. And if you know where you are, you're sorted. That's perfect. But it's like maps need 2 pieces of information to matter. Like you need to know where you are, but you also need to know where the fuck you want to be, like where you've come from or where you're going. Otherwise, who cares?
Well, here we go.
All right, do it. Bring it home.
Well, it's exactly what we were saying before about your sense of self. It isn't really anything unless it's in interaction with something else. So until you're in relationship to something else, same with on a map, you can, cool, like this is where my pin is. But if you don't know where fucking anything else is, it's completely useless information. So you can be like, cool, like I know I'm at whatever coordinates, but that's completely useless information to you unless you know where that is in relation to your car or anything else,
Yeah.
You could have other information that maybe wasn't the car, but that you could work things out from there.
Yeah, exactly. I love like meaning happens in relation. Like meaning is not a thing that is inherently imbued in one object. It's not a thing that's objective. It's only ever in relation to other pieces.
Yeah.
We got there.
Yeah.
It was so shit. Just being lost.
Oh my
so
God.
shit.
And I imagine the frustration of that being like, but we have
that was exactly.
We have the phone.
And it was just 4 fucking city kids without Google Maps, just being like, but we have phones and we have signal. Why can't we fix this? And you're just like, oh, you sweet, sweet idiots.
How did you get back?
Just so much walking until we eventually found a road. We found a few roads, and then it's like, are you going to go up the road? Are you going to go down the road? And you don't know if that road is the road that the car's parked on. And again, if you don't know, if it's not the road with your car, like there's no relation to finding.
How far
it was
up
crazy
that road
making.
do you go?
Yeah.
I'm just trying. I can't recall a time I've been super lost. I mean, I'm lost all the time because I have a terrible sense of direction.
I thought we were getting like emotionally.
Oh, well, that obviously. Yeah, but I'm trying to think of a time where I've been like lost to that extent where it's sort of been like hours of like,
it's been
there's
so
no way of
long.
working this out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a really unfamiliar feeling, actually, weirdly enough. You think it's a thing that you would have a recent reference point for, but actually being lost as an adult kind of in the first world with the internet, like you just aren't really.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think. Remember like, so when the first time I went overseas when I was 18, because I'm a very, very lucky little duck. And this was it wasn't pre-internet, but it was definitely pre-Google Maps, smartphones. Like it was internet cafe. It was pre-social media, those sort of days. And thinking about that now, like, you know, walking around with your Lonely Planet guides and unfolding these giant maps and like looking like a massive dork and streets, like
A to Z of London.
But I'm sure we would have gotten lost a few times over there, but it's sort of, I don't know, like that was almost the point, like not scary lost, but you know, it was just, I feel like that is something, speaking of being lost, it's like a skill that we've lost, like that, like working it out, you know, using reference points to work something out. And I'm so like I'll put my Google Maps on in the car for routes I should really remember. And I'm sure if I turned it off, I would know how to get there. It's just become such a crutch to have that voice.
Today was the first day I've driven to your house without Google Maps on. And I've been to your house 100,000 million times. Yeah. And
it's bad.
Yeah, it's real bad. And like sometimes I know I'm doing it because I just like the comfort of a woman's voice telling me in a calm but firm manner what to do.
Yeah.
Like, I need this just in my life in general, just this voice echoing, being like, go left now, Alice. I'll be like, okay.
Well, and it just takes that sort of like that bit of attention away. You can just then listen to your podcast or the radio or whatever and not have to pay as much attention. I also have followed Google Maps from my house to your house for like, I don't now, but it took me a long time. And listeners, this is a very short and straightforward drive.
Basically a line.
But yeah, you just get used to that sort of like security blanket kind of thing.
Yeah. And I was reading a book a while back it's called Wayfinding, and it was so fascinating. It was on how this has changed our brains, like and it's so scary. Just this like inability to kind of navigate and how quickly you lose it. And
I have wondered about that. Like what's the ongoing impact of that? And then ultimately how much it matters, you know, because with every new technology, there's this fear that it's going to, you know, stunt this sort of thinking. And it probably does. But is that just part of, you know, because technology is part of our evolution as well. We're not separate from it, you know, it's part of us. We're part of it. And how much does it actually matter?
Yeah. I mean, I
don't know.
that it's the same as the invention of the written letter.
Exactly.
You know, people were freaking out that it was going to make us as human animals so much dumber because we no longer have to use our memory. We're just going to put everything down in these mysterious things called alphabets.
Yeah.
But the trade-off was so worth it.
Yeah. Or like the printing press, you know, you see those old like cartoon. It's exactly the same as you'll now see those like, what's society come to, that are like cartoons of people are looking down at their phones on the train. They had that for newspapers.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, look at us all fucking idiots reading our newspapers and not interacting with each other. Whereas now reading a newspaper comparatively feels like a highbrow intellectual thing to do, unless it's the Herald Sun, of course. But you know what I mean? Like we have this like fear that everything's going to shit, and then that becomes the norm, and then that's updated to a new fear of whatever the new thing is. And some things probably are genuinely detrimental and some aren't. And I guess you don't really know when you're in it.
Well, I wonder if there's something to, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this, but if there's like a fundamental shift in how we view the world when navigation happens around us instead of so we currently, if you think about your Google Maps, right?
Yeah.
It's a screen. You're the little car icon or whatever in the middle, and then the map moves for you, but you kind of don't move, right? Like you are the center of that, and the landscape moves around you on the screen to tell you where you should go. Versus if you're on a map, the map remains static. Like the environment kind of has the weight, and then you had to like move your finger along it and be like, I'm gonna go here and here and here. But there's just more of a sense of like the environment was the more important static anchor foundational thing, and you were this tiny speck moving around on it. Versus on your phone, it's like you are like the sun at the center, right? Like you remain at the center, and the world is continually reconfiguring itself around you.
That is super fucking interesting. I wonder if people have done any studies on that, because that is, I mean, it's fascinating, those like little things. And again, like obviously people know that the world doesn't, well, most people know that the world doesn't revolve around them. But those little like symbols, those little metaphors that are just like slowly seeping in. I wonder, does that make us feel more self-involved, self-important, self-centered to think? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm like, is it a symptom of us centering ourselves, or is reading it like that a very pop psychology way of projecting a whole symbolic meaning onto? You're like, nah, that's just how it looks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Map talk. Map talk. Cartography.com. I'm so into maps.
complete sidestep again. But so Alice and I both work as graphic recorders. We do live illustration at workshops and conferences and stuff. And get called a bunch of different things. And usually I don't mind. I mean, not like insults. Yeah, can't.
Wow. Get called a bunch of different things like talented.
I mean, it's because graphic recorder isn't a term that's familiar to people. So people might call you a graphic artist, an illustrator, a cartoonist, a scribe. Yeah, all of those things. And generally it doesn't really matter, right? But I had a guy who once insisted on calling me a cartographer.
Ooh.
I'm like, that is not the right word. Because all the other ones, I'm like, I get it. I think he was trying to say cartoonist but make it sound fancier. And I was like, no, you're just using the wrong word now.
Yeah. I mean, there's an argument, I guess, because people have described what we do as mind maps.
They have.
I angle.
100% am sure that's not the angle he was taking. He was just saying cartoonist wrong.
Wow.
But I had the same. I'm like, I kind of like it in a way, because you are kind of making a map of the conversation.
Yeah.
But 100% not what he was going for.
I just feel like, I mean, I don't know what the cartography industry is like at the moment, but I do feel like that they would resent that quite a lot.
Yeah.
They're like, that's not what we do, guys.
What do they do these days?
Do you know there's this thing called a paper street, which is, so this is one of my favorite Fight Club related facts.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
So in Fight Club, Tyler Durden lives on Paper Street. And what a paper street is in cartography is back in the old days where pre-Google Maps, when everyone just took for granted access to maps, it's like you would have to pay for that intellectual property, and people were going out constantly drawing maps. Like that was a job people could have, and then they would bring home this really valuable artifact that you would pay for. But then obviously someone's been gone for 2 years, they've mapped a whole coastline around whatever area, they've come back, they're going to sell this to you now because you're going to go on some voyage. But there's some other dick who hasn't done the exploration, who goes, buys that map and then just retraces it and can sell it for the same amount, but he's done none of that work, right?
Oh.
So a way that they would protect that intellectual property is to draw what they would call paper streets into the map, which is fake streets, but that would usually be dead ends or essentially anything that wouldn't impede your navigation. It wouldn't get in the way of you using that map, but it would be a way for me to know if you had copied my map or not, because that street's not there in the real world.
Wow.
It's cool. Hey, yeah.
How do you know this stuff, Alice?
I don't know, but I love that so much. And I love the idea that Chuck Palahniuk took that and then put Tyler Durden, who's this real but not real person living in a street that's a real but not real figment of your imagination. So cool.
People are so clever.
Yeah.
So creative.
I want to rewatch Fight Club actually. We did a brief course on it at uni around like the dying idea of masculinity. It was super interesting.
I haven't watched Fight Club for a really long time. One of my friends was having a laugh because I'd changed. This is when this is probably
So
you know when you forget that you've got an audience and then you're like, oh, they don't know my entire life. This will take some backstory and it's real. Like the payoff is not worth it. I'll do it briefly. And apologies because the payoff isn't really worth it, but I've started now, so I'm going to have to finish. So my alter ego Glitter Tits is my burlesque performance name.
Yes.
I started doing some shows last year and a friend of mine was sort of gently ribbing me for the fact that I'd changed my profile picture to Glitter Tits. He's like, I love that Glitter Tits is like slowly taken over and now she's your profile picture. I was like, yeah, she's my Tyler Durden. We're slowly just like becoming one and the same. Yeah. See, told you not worth it. Oh no, that was it. It would have just been an offhanded comment, but then I realized I couldn't just say Glitter Tits is my Tyler Durden because people would be like, what the fuck are you actually talking about?
No, it was perfect in every way. I just thought there was going to be more build up, so I didn't want to spend my excitement too soon.
That was it. I'm sorry. What time is it? Oh, God.
No, I love that.
Yeah. Well,
all right.
Sorry to end on such a fizzer of a story.
Don't apologize. I loved it. I loved it and I loved you and anyone who stayed with us this far. You're fucking beautiful. Thank you for coming. We say it often, but it really is the best. We don't take it for granted. Everyone's time is fucking valuable. There's a million Netflixes and binges and stands and everything vying for people's attention. So
you know what though, Alice? On my list, which is stuck on my wall at the moment of I guess attributes you'd call them, which is why it's been fresh in my mind for this conversation. Unapologetic is one of them. So I'm not sorry for my shit story. And Alice is going to stop saying at the end of these episodes to anyone who's stuck with us this long because I feel like if they're here, they want to be here. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I really mean it in a positive way. I mean like you've come on a hike. Yeah. It's cool and now we're watching the sunrise over the ocean together.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. All right. Well, enjoy the sunrise.
I love you. Thank you for
too.
this. Thanks just for being rad.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Imposter Syndrome Club. Please follow us wherever you find your podcasts. And if you're feeling extra kind, rate and review. Or if you got any insights or value from this, share with a friend.
You can also find us on Instagram at ImposterPod or online at impostersyndromeclub.com.